Welcome to 1991 Movie Rewind, a podcast where we watch and review every movie released in 1991, from the all-time greatest classics to the critically panned and everything in between. We will rediscover forgotten fan favorites and uncover hidden gems as we explore the depths of direct-to-video. Join us in our celebration of the fun, unique, and diverse films of this highly underrated year. This week, we watched New Jack City. In New Jack City, Wesley Snipes plays Nino Brown, a drug-dealing kingpin who is determined to control all of New York by any means necessary. He's keeping his close friends at the top, but at this level of power, you never know who you can trust. Maybe someone is working with the cops who are aggressively working to take Nino and his whole operation down. Screenplay by Thomas Lee Wright and Barry Michael Cooper, directed by Mario Van Peebles, and debuting at the Sundance Film Festival on January 17th, 1991. Have you seen New Jack City before?
Yes, I have.
I have not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a lot of movies from this, era that I'm missing out on, I think. So this was a fresh one. I was excited to watch it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'd seen Boys in the Hood, which I think there's some comparison warranted between the two.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that for 20 years, so I'm excited to compare again once we get into that. Yeah,
it's like LA versus New York crime, I guess.
Yeah, they both sort of deal with the street life mentality and also deal with some of the
gangs and stuff.
Yeah, and some of the larger social issues that are part of that. The cause and effect side of things. Both get into that a bit more. But yeah, I'd never seen this. It was interesting. It felt like a lot of it is stuff that I felt like I had seen before. And I don't know if that's because this, in essence, set the bar or basically became the template for some of these future movies that came after it.
Yeah, like gangster type movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in black cinema, there are a lot of movies that take a lot of these tropes and don't do them as well as they're done in New Jack City, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of it leans a lot more towards I don't know how to really phrase it, because I don't want to say blaxploitation because that's not really accurate, but it's just they take all the substance out of it. There's a lot of derivative work. Let's just say it that way, I guess, maybe is the best way to say it. But there's also some really good ones, like what we saw with Juice.
Yeah.
In 1992.
Like a year later.
Honestly, I think Juice is better than New Jack City.
Yeah, I feel like, because, I haven't seen this since I was a teenager, so it's been maybe 25 years since I've seen this movie. But we watched Juice recently, and that movie is more succinct, I guess. Just it's a good, It's a perfect story.
Yeah, and I think it probably deals with the relationships and the character development a bit more.
Yeah, too. You feel for each character in that movie.
Yeah, I think
this one, to me, when I was watching, it was a little bit soap opera-y.
Right.
And I was I shouldn't really laugh, but I was kind of laughing at mostly the Chris Rock stuff. Even though he wasn't meant to be, there's parts where...
There's a couple scenes where he's meant to be funny,
but most of the time
he's not.
But when he was going into rehab, those scenes where he's struggling with drugs and the faces he was making, I don't know, I was kind of laughing at that, even though it was meant to be serious.
Yeah, it can be difficult when you have someone who's known for comedy, and
right.
At this point,
It made me feel like he was like going way over the top, trying to be serious. Like he was going over the top with his acting.
Yeah, and that could be true. I don't think he had really done too many, if any, dramatic roles at this point. He was mostly known for like stand-up, and
like
he had done
SNL.
a couple small little things, and then obviously some SNL. But anytime you see someone that you know for comedy in a dramatic role, it kind of messes with your mind a little bit in that way. So I certainly understand that. I think what hurts the movie a bit more for me, or at least compared to Juice, like I was saying before, is like with like Tupac's character, you see a character arc develop. Like you see some sort of relationships between the people.
Yeah,
here it's mostly just told
it's
to
like,
you.
Four best friends, and they all kind of like, it's like a coming of age, but also like friends growing apart,
Right.
mostly due to gang life and
Power struggles and mistrust that comes with having
But
money.
this, we don't see that, because it's like these people are already established as being like drug lords, and we don't see like how they became that way.
Yeah, we don't see how they become that way. Yeah, exactly.
They're just already successful at being like these kingpins in the drug trade and whatever.
Nino Brown starts off as a pure villain, and he stays a pure villain throughout the entire thing. Right? He is like evil incarnate in a sense. Like he has no redeeming factors or qualities to him.
Yeah.
You're first introduced to him through a aerial shot that's going through the city, and then lands on this bridge, and someone's being hung over the bridge by Bill Nunn, and then Wesley Snipes comes in and basically says, "You shouldn't have messed with me," and like Sia wouldn't want to be you.
Yeah, and then
and then he gets
dumped into the river,
dumped in the water.
And that's
so
like
our introduction.
I mean, to me, I'm like, okay, the action's starting immediately.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, and the action does come and go. It's not really an action movie, but it definitely does have.
But like the
the
dramatics, I guess, is just like beginning.
Yeah.
It doesn't like start with, I don't know, like a introduction story about. I mean, I think in the beginning when they're showing the city shots, there is like script that says this is purely fictional, but there are people like this.
That's at the very end.
Oh, at the very end.
Yeah, at the very end they have that little.
I remember seeing.
While Nino Brown is fictional, there are Nino Browns in every city in America. Basically.
Okay. Because I remember seeing a city shot and then that.
No.
Okay, that was at the end.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's the Queen Latifah song that kind of comes and goes throughout the movie.
Right.
And then also
goes into Ice-T.
Like a radio report thing that's
yeah.
playing as the aerial shots are happening, basically talking about how jobs are down, income inequality is up, and crimes are up across the city, and it's like talking about all those different like social issues that are contributing to the drug culture in 1986, which is when this starts, and then I think most of the movie takes place in 89. But that's the very beginning, before they take over the apartment complex, that's 86, and then after they're established, that's in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the timing in this movie,
Reagan era is talked about a little bit.
Yeah, the timing in this movie kind of threw me off. It seemed like they accelerated things.
Yeah, there's a couple montages because the first part is them talking about this new thing, crack rock, right? So from like 1986 or so is like when things are shifting from cocaine to crack rock, and then they talk about how they're going to take over this apartment complex, the Carter apartments, and then that happens within 2 minutes after they talk about it. Like it's just like a quick little montage of a couple shootouts,
and then all of a sudden they're established, and they have this whole like system,
whole massive operation, and then you see 1989 at the bottom of the screen.
So it took them 3 years,
right? But it's virtually 3 seconds of airtime, and then also Pookie, played by Chris Rock, him getting clean, to become an undercover.
Him
that also is a pretty quick transition.
Because he Yeah, you have Ice-T as Scotty Appleton, who's like a detective. He's like an undercover cop.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows about, well, we don't know about the relationship, like why Ice-T is doing this until like the end.
We know he's a cop.
We know he's a cop, but he has like, but he has
obviously.
like this personal vendetta, I guess, against Nino Brown. But we don't know until like near the end of the movie why, and it's because like Scotty Appleton's mother was murdered by Nino, or like Nino's gang at some point.
Right, but I don't think he knew that at the time. He just knew that some random drug dealer or someone on drugs came up
And killed his mom.
Mugged and killed his mom without even actually taking anything. Just ran off, didn't steal anything, just completely pointless killing. And so that's why he was like so mad at the drug culture and people who use and deal drugs.
I'm anti-drug and blah blah
because
blah.
it causes this type of destruction.
Yeah.
And then later when
he is
Ice-T
a
becomes
cop.
the undercover person,
Right,
and infiltrates Nino's organization and whatnot.
Like,
then
he finds
Nino
out-
basically says, I had to do this hit when I was first joining up with this gang, and one of the first things I had to do was just kill a random person, and
Right. That's the person that he randomly killed
Yeah.
was his mom. So
of course, yes.
and then we don't find that out until like near the end.
Yeah, we find it out when Ice-T finds it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the latter half of the movie.
Right. But I mean, in general, you don't have
Right.
to have a personal vendetta if you're supposed to be a cop.
I guess Ice-T is
against
just
illegal
like
activities such as drugs and murder and
anti-drugs, and he's
So-
like, I'm gonna eradicate drugs and become this police detective. But we don't know when his mom was killed. Like, was he a kid or like
we don't
teenager
fully know.
or 20-year-old? But
it was
because of that,
that's why he became a cop.
Ice-T became a cop.
Yeah. And so early on,
Scotty Appleton.
he's working on busting Pookie, who's working as a drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
They work out some sort of a deal. Ice-T shows him the money in the bag, and then Chris Rock's character Pookie, he just basically punches him and steals the money without giving any sort of drugs or anything, and runs off. And then it starts off with a chase sequence where Pookie gets onto a bike, and then Ice-T's running after him across the city and through parks, and eventually like shoots him in the ankle.
Yeah.
It becomes like a big old scene, and I think that early section is probably one of the most effective ones in the movie for me, because one, you get a really good vibe of the city. Like, you see all these different locations within. It just feels very alive and frantic. And the filmmaking is very early 90s. Mario Van Peebles, I don't know if he was influenced by some of the other people around him, but canted angles everywhere, as many aerial shots. Is like more about like the dynamics of the visuals rather than, necessarily the substance of the frame. All that kind of stuff is happening here. Just trying to make things as cool looking as possible.
Right.
And then, I think also just when he finally catches up with Pookie after shooting him, and like the money goes flying, and you see everybody like coming in to like snatch the money and run away as well. And then you have like the cops. He's an undercover cop, but you have
the actual cops that were
actual dressed cops coming in, also trying to retain Ice-T.
Like Ice-T, and Ice-T's like, no, I'm a cop.
I'm also a cop. And you have all these other people just kind of like watching. And so I think, that's not really like brought up again, but just that little acknowledgement that Ice-T would also be potentially in trouble or considered a threat in these situations, which kind of makes sense because he has a gun and he's on top of somebody.
Right.
He's not in cop clothes, and not every cop knows every other cop, but still just the general vibe of it I thought was very effective with that. So
but
that's our introduction to Pookie.
But
basically.
the whole thing with Pookie trying to get clean, that was like 10 to 15 minutes, but that that was probably like a span of maybe like a year.
I really don't know. Yeah.
I mean, for him, cause I mean, Ice-T, takes him in and, wants him to be like an informant, just asking him all these questions, but he's like, first you got to get clean, and he kind of locks him in his own apartment or an apartment.
Well, it's kind of weird because they show scenes of him like trying to exercise in Ice-T's apartment with like Judd Nelson, who's also partnered up with Ice-T, which is a whole other thing that we can talk about in a second.
Right.
But then they also show him in this rehab facility going to these meetings and like huddled in that bed like shaking.
Yeah,
and stuff
I was like, was that Ice-T's place or
I don't think so.
his own?
I think that
like
was
a
the
place?
rehab bed.
Oh, okay.
Wherever he's supposed to be going to these
I
meetings.
thought he was going to like rehab in like the basement of like a church or like in the police department itself, because that's kind of like I don't know.
Think that's
so it was like
thing.
an actual rehab.
Yeah, I think just a couple
facility.
of cops were like, forcing him through the door that first time.
Yeah, because
then they signed him up and then he got dragged away.
And then there were times where, I guess he was at a rehab place, because there are times where, he's in the room and people are talking about their experiences. He gets up and leaves, and,
right.
The sponsor or whoever was talking was like, if you leave, you may never come back.
Yeah, it's not a revolving door.
Right.
Kelly Jo
but then
Winters,
he just leaves.
Yeah.
This is like her. Yeah, this is like her fourth time this year.
That might be the last. I don't remember anymore. So yeah, that was an interesting sequence.
But it just shows, so that whole sequence of Chris Rock or Pookie trying to become clean, and then he eventually is clean, and then he's like, yeah, I want to help you guys out.
Right, yeah.
He's like, I think I'm ready, and I want to help you guys out.
Yeah, and he had the sense that he was going to be asked, or at least offered a job if he got clean, because when he was in line as a drug addict for the turkey dinner thing that they did outside.
Yeah, that Nino
set
gang.
Up. He basically said as much, and so he took it as fact.
Yeah.
So when he's getting like his full turkey dumped onto his plate, which I think was supposed to be partly comedic until the next scene where he's, with the other addict in the random building. Yes, he basically says, yeah, if you get clean, then let me know, I'll get you a job. So that's what happens.
He got clean, but he's there as an informant to help the cops.
And there's several cops involved, so we should say that Ice-T is not the only one.
Yeah.
Right. As I mentioned before, we have Judd Nelson, who's there to be sort of the
like he was just like his partner in this investigation. Like he doesn't
do anything except for the very end when he cracks the safe and helps with like defusing the bomb.
Yeah, he helps defuse that bomb.
There's a lot of weird soap opera stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, this is kind of over the top with things. Yeah, he's just kind of, he's kind of there, pulled in by the other. Well, you have Park, who's Russell Wong.
Yeah.
And then you have Mario Van Peebles, who's
Must Die.
And you have Mario Van Peebles, who's like the leader of this investigation against Nino Brown, and he pulls in, Ice-T, Scotty, Judd Nelson, who's Nick Peretti. Like, he forces them all to work together.
Yeah, so Mario Van Peebles plays
like against
Stone, and he's
Ice-T's will, because he's kind of like, I think Scotty was like sort of secretly doing this police detective stuff for Mario Van Peebles' character without, the other cops in his whatever beat or whatever knowing about it.
There's a
like
lot
he pulled them in.
There's a lot of stuff that just does not make sense in terms of how the investigation and whatnot is structured and how it's all involved. So yeah, it's really tough to know what Ice-T was supposed to do, if it was just like him normal, walking the beats and then trying to find undercover activities to infiltrate or whatever, or if you had actual assignments before this. But it seems like he was always basically chasing Nino Brown to some degree, and then Stone and Park, Peebles and Wong, they bring those two together to do some sort of like official undercover operation where they have a room with all the gadgets that you would expect to see, and you have the cameras on the belt buckle that they have Pookie wear, and
Park
stuff
is
like
the
that.
one who's like bringing in all this technology, like a tiny camera and the wire underneath his shirt.
Yeah, all that fun stuff.
But isn't that like typical stuff that police detectives have already?
I don't know.
For like stuff like this, I
But
don't
they
know,
needed
like
someone
for
on
criminal.
the inside is the thing.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like it made it seem as if Park was the police officer that like invented these things.
No, I think he was just there to help with.
Okay, he was just there because
he
it
was
just
the direct supervisor. He was just another body, really.
to do like all the tech stuff.
Yeah,
he was the tech guy.
They also made it seem like Judd Nelson was supposed to be the tech guy because he was like tinkering with shit and like again
he was the bomb diffuser
that was,
guy
that was on Pookie once he got caught, and then he cracked this. So I mean, who knows? Like I said, nothing is really fully set up, and that's why Juice is better. So it's such a weird thing, and the scenes move so fast too. And the dialogue isn't really fleshed out in such a great way. It's mostly just say enough words to get the point across and move on to the next thing. There's not really any dynamicism here. There's no depth to anybody in this movie. They try to give some to Pookie. They try to give a little bit to Ice-T with that whole mother story. But other than that, it's just, here's a collection of events that we'll get through to tell this story that feels a little bit basic, but possibly just because we've seen it so many times since then. I think also what hurts the movie to me is that one of the things that really benefited it was that it was a pretty low budget affair. It was about $8 million. As we said, it premiered at Sundance. Mario Van Peebles obviously is the son of Melvin, who is known for low budget movies, and we'll get into more of Melvin's legacy later on because he's in 1991's True Identity, so we can talk about Melvin, who just recently passed away, and all that he brought to black cinema. But Mario knows that world, right? So he knows like the low budget stuff. And this definitely did feel like a low budget run and gun movie where there maybe weren't a whole lot of takes. The set dressing wasn't super polished at any given time. The acting in general really wasn't all that good to me. I don't know if you thought so. I think Chris Rock did a great job for the most part, except for when he had to really over-emote during those rehab scenes, but the rest of it was good.
Yeah, he was fine.
Ice-T was good.
Yeah, and Wesley Snipes
was good.
Yeah.
The rest, I could leave. And that includes Bill Nunn, who, we thought gave one of the best performances of the year regarding Henry.
Right.
Now,
I mean, Bill Nunn was just kind of, I mean, he was kind of just like Nino, one of his sidekicks.
He was like just, muscle.
Yeah, the muscle guy.
Who was given a stutter to give him a little bit more character, I guess.
Right.
But
I mean, that was that was fine. I don't know, but yeah,
everyone else, not so much. I'm afraid
it was just kind of I mean, what I said before, just very soap opera-y. Like everyone was trying like really hard to be too serious.
Yeah, or
I don't know.
Yeah, or they didn't have. I don't know. Something was off about it. Actually, I'll take it back. I'll say that Bill Cobbs was also really good, who played quote unquote
old man. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't know.
But he didn't. He had a
Like
couple scenes.
I think the Judd Nelson thing was making me laugh because like I was like, why is he even there? Like they just needed the white guy to be like, is this a black thing? Like he just said that like every half hour.
Yeah, I really think that Judd Nelson's character was really just there to instigate and to
annoy
add
his
drama to scenes that did not need drama. Because basically all he did was make slightly racial comments towards Ice-T's character.
Right.
And then, like, make him upset. And then they tussle or whatever, start to get confrontational. Like, okay, what are you actually contributing? Like, what is this? Besides, like, your goatee?
Besides trying to look... That's why I was like...
looking like an undercover cop?
Well, because I was like, did he... Okay, I don't know if you know Man Cow.
Yeah, he looks like Man Cow.
That's why I was like, oh, is he trying to look like Man Cow or is Man Cow trying to look like Judd Nelson in this movie?
Why would either of them want to look like
I don't know. It was like the spiky hair, the goatee, the sunglasses all the time.
Yeah.
Trying to be cool.
It's tough to really say. I mean, this is sort of where Judd Nelson's descent into direct-to-video movies starts, even though this obviously was not direct-to-video. This was a major financial success.
Right.
In terms of budget, it made like $50 million close to, and is the 25th best performing movie of 1991. But, Judd Nelson, he was known for Brat Pack stuff, right? Like, he's an MTV Silver Bucket Award winner for The Breakfast Club. He's in St. Elmo's Fire. He was in the Transformers movie. But he also had Razzies for Blue City and From the Hip. And from here, I don't know if this was a turning point for him or audiences towards him with that goatee or something. But yeah, pretty much most of what he had done after this, besides appearing in the sitcom Suddenly Susan, was direct-to-video action movies or sci-fi stuff. So I don't know, maybe it's just like it's tough to say. But yeah, I felt like he really did not provide anything other than I guess he was supposed to be like speaking for the white man in a sense, but obviously all of his stuff was like vaguely racist or even possibly directly racist at any given time. And he didn't do anything productive until he breaks into a safe, who anybody could have done.
I mean, yeah, and then he sort of helps Ice-T's character out at the very end.
Yeah, when there's the big shootout at the end, then there's a thing. Then
he sort of explains why he got into this to Scotty.
Right. Yeah.
He was like, I used to be...
He's like, in
this world, but
white people can be drug addicts too, in a sense.
I was like,
that was
okay.
basically the message of that.
Not only black people do drugs, but white people do. And then it's like I was one of them, and I was like, okay.
I used to be like Pookie, yeah.
I was just like, okay, why do we need this story?
Again, like it's just like slapped together attempts at character development.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually work, but it's there to try to give the illusion that there might be some. But everything is just so quick and to the point. It's just somewhat lifeless in a way. And you need like the big character like
mostly
Wesley Snipes to save that.
Mostly like I was just kind of like why is he there? Just that was the only.
Yeah, just so Ice-T isn't talking to himself.
Yeah, I mean that was the only role where I'm like, why is this person even there? I don't know.
Yeah, things that are at issue, just in terms of the plot, like it really confused me that they had Pookie in there. He had the belt camera and the wire.
Yeah.
He was talking to high ups. He was talking to G Money, who we have not mentioned like at all.
G Money is like Nino
the
Brown.
Right-hand man of Nino Brown.
Right hand man.
The guy who brought the idea of crack rock to him, played by Alan Payne, who is in CB4 with Chris Rock, Jason's Lyric, a couple episodes of The Cosby Show back in the day, and a ton of episodes of House of Pain.
I think it's still
going.
Yeah,
it's still going, which is incredible. He's
that's Tyler Perry. I mean,
yeah. Honestly, like in a weird way, I think Mario Van Peebles reminds me of Tyler Perry.
Like a pre Tyler Perry.
Yeah, in a sense, because I mean, again, like the production is very
like he can just whip out stuff every couple of.
Well, I don't think
months.
he's that prolific.
But
I'm not really saying in terms of that, but just in terms of, you know,
like over the top. I get it. Like if you were watching Tyler Perry movies, it's just the usual like cliche things that happen in these movies.
There's. I mean, I have not seen a lot of Mario Van Peebles' work, right? So I can't really speak to his whole library of movies, but just seeing this and seeing, you know, the relatively cliched aspects of it, the unpolished production design aspect of it, it just felt like it was put together pretty quickly. I don't know how true that was, but that's the vibe I got from it. So, you know, being able to produce something at a low budget that really also at the same time is boosting the people around you, right? Like, so he's bringing in a lot of his friends and his family, and he's bringing in a lot of, you know, he's doing good for the culture, right? And then he's also inserting himself into it as well, right? So he's playing Stone, he's directing it, he's putting together this thing that's, you know, celebrating blackness, African American culture, in a sense, even though it's a world about drugs, like it's still
he's bringing
meant to be
it
an
to
uplifting
attention.
story overall. Or, he's bringing the social issues, and he's doing all this stuff, and you know, so I get that type of vibe from him, that I would like a Tyler Perry.
Right.
Hopefully that made sense. So, where was I with the G Money thing?
Yeah, we got G Money, who we haven't talked about yet, who's Wesley or Nino Brown's right hand man. But then we also have like his other. I mean, we talked about Bill Nunn already, and then another character I like. I mean, she was probably just a little over the top. Was, you know, the Vanessa Williams character Keisha. But she was just kind of like the assassin.
Yeah, she was like the female muscle. She was they didn't really say where she came from or how she related to them. She was just always there.
Yeah, but she was kind of like a ride or die person for Nino and G Money. Like she would literally die for these guys, and it's like she's very loyal to them.
Right, and did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which again, going back to sort of the low budget.
But we don't see the like why they're all like. I mean, we know that Nino Brown and G Money, they were like they grew up together. They were childhood friends. Mm-hmm. But these other people that, you know, like the Dada man and her, and then even how he met his girlfriend Nino, like Michael Michelle, Selena. Right. Because I was like, because she seems like she doesn't want to be a part of that world at all.
Yeah, but like, did she bring in Kareem, played by Christopher Williams? Because like, the opening scene, like she has her arms around him. I thought they were together for a second.
A part of bringing in these people to help Nino.
I don't know.
But she also,
I don't fully remember.
But I felt as if she didn't even want to be a part of this entire gang and drug world at all.
Yeah, she didn't have an active hand in it. She was just there because she evidently loved Nino, and Nino was like, the world is mine, I'm going to take whatever I want.
Yeah, and she was like, I love you. Maybe they were like high school sweethearts, and they've been together for like 20 years. I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know. Oh, I remember what I was saying before.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about the G Money stuff. Talking about the plot not making sense. I mean, we sort of.
We're going there with these characters, I guess.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, like Pookie had the camera on, and he was like talking to like G Money, and he was talking to Kareem, on camera, and he was in the drug room where they were like putting the drugs into various different bags, and you have like all the topless people, because they're, you know, not trusted drugs to steal.
And they're all women, so it's like all these women who are topless, but they wear like smocks or whatever.
Right.
Like these kind of hospital gowny looking things. Because,
which we've seen in other drug movies.
Yeah.
Before
because,
Incense, actually, but yeah.
the drug kingpins, they don't trust anyone. So, they don't want them, pocketing anything. So they got to be basically naked.
Right, but
Pookie's the only one that's not naked in that room.
Right. Yeah, which is weird in and of itself.
That's why I was like, why is he the only one in that room? Like, especially since he used to be a drug addict.
Right.
And he's in there with full-on clothes.
Yeah, they trust him when they shouldn't, obviously. They don't, they have this big...
They could have taken his... Because he's wired under there and everything. Mm-hmm. And they don't even check him. Like, for...
No, I know.
Like, an operation that's, like, so... clad tight or whatever.
Yeah, ironclad.
Ironclad. Yeah, that's when they show him in that room. I'm like, why is he wearing clothes and he's totally wired? They don't like pat him down and do like a full on check like every time he goes in there.
Yeah,
if
that
they're
definitely
like
should be
so
happening.
About security and stuff.
That should definitely be happening, but beyond that,
they trust him that much for him to be in that room.
Right. Yeah, but separate from that.
Yeah. That was another thing of mine. I don't know.
What I'm trying to get at
here
is that they have all this footage of the actual drug operation and people who are in charge of it. And then the police are saying, "No, we can't do jack shit. We don't have anything on Nino specifically, so we can't do anything."
Even though he has
as if they
actual
couldn't, like,
women stuffing bags.
Yeah,
with
even
drugs.
though they have video of the actual operation and how it works and where it is, and they know key people involved. Who cares if you don't have Nino specifically?
So they need to show Nino actively.
Right, they're like, we need evidence of Nino like being involved in these deals or murdering somebody himself. Like all this stuff that. And like, but the rest of those people are like throwaways. Yeah, like, why are they throwaways? Like,
why can't they just arrest those people to get to Nino?
Yeah, they could clearly shut down the entire operation based off of what they have. But the movie makes the logical step of saying, oh, if we don't have anything on Nino, then we can't do anything on anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's bullshit. And like the same thing happens in the courtroom too, where like Nino is like, after he is arrested, he's basically like, I wasn't the lead man, Kareem was the lead man. And then everyone's like, oh shit, oh fuck, okay, well god damn it, I guess we gotta get rid of Nino now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, our case against Nino is shit now because he just said Kareem was the man and maybe he's telling the truth. It's like, come on. There's like these massive leaps in logic that don't actually make sense, that kind of ruin things
these
a bit.
Loopholes with... I get it.
Yeah. So... at least there is some action, right? So at least, like you have that chase scene at the beginning. You have the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
You have the shootout at the thing. Because, like, basically when Pookie starts using again.
Yeah.
And he goes
because
little
he's
nuts.
He goes nuts in that one room.
And he starts dancing around and his cover gets blown.
And G-Money goes in. He's like, "Why are you acting like this? Are you using again?" He's like, "Are you high?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're high." And then, but then he strips. He takes his clothes. He's like, "Let me see." And then he sees that Pookie has a wire.
And they're like, "Oh shit, we're blown." And then that's when the cops rush in, and that's when they set the building on fire to destroy everything.
Yeah, all their evidence,
and like remove the discs that are put into the safe.
The floppy disks made me laugh.
Yes, the floppy disks that Nick Peretti finds in the safe later on, but with like the minimal, guard dog diversion. There's a lot that
I mean, this is like Face-Off level. I don't know.
No, I think Face-Off
like
had
over
better...
the top Face-Off level.
This is like double
intensity.
Impact.
Okay.
Double impact level of like structure.
Yeah, I guess.
and sensical plot. But yeah, I mean, and then you also have the wedding shootout, which again I think speaks to the low budget side of things because
you
like in this big open air area, you have a bunch of gunshots. But it's like one table of shit that gets shot up.
The way that they showed that, I was like, all these people, because, it's like, they have a little girl. This is like, I was like, that little...
It's like a massive wedding, and then everybody's gone except for Nino and his crew for some reason.
Yeah, but then there's
Even
like this
though
little
none of
girl
them were
there.
being
She was like one of the.
Involved in the wedding.
Yeah.
So
I was like, who's the wedding? Like a friend of theirs?
I don't know.
And then Nino just hosted it.
Yeah, it was at Nino's property.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so like people who were posing as workers for the wedding.
Well, we didn't
pull
even
out
get
guns
to
and
the whole
shoot
part
outs
with
and stuff
because
like that.
Nino has sort of a deal with like the
Yeah,
Italian
there's the Italian
mob.
mob that's involved. There's a shootout with them where they all die really poorly.
Yeah, the way they
like,
died
really...
made me laugh, which
I think
I
it's
don't
like
know. The acting, the death acting.
I think
was
they
over
knew
the
it was
top.
going to be shot in slow motion,
So
and
they're
they were like,
showing
but
their
they were
bodies
acting in slow motion.
convulsing.
and
Their
then it was
bodies are
also-
convulsing in
Yes.
like a slow motion way.
Yeah, exactly. So they were like probably moving in slow motion, but it
It
was
was
also shot in
funny.
slow motion, so it looks equally like slow and goofy. Yes.
So then, like, to retaliate, the Italian mob, they have these guys who like are undercover for the the catering guys
yeah,
for this
like
wedding.
that.
And like, how come they didn't shoot them? You had this whole wedding, and then it was like the end of the wedding where all of a sudden the catering guys are putting their stuff in, and then they like take these guns out in slow motion, and everyone, you see this whole, like, everyone sees this in slow motion.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I have it in my notes. It's reversed. The wedding happened first, and then the drive-by on Don Armatao's gang was after.
The Italian gang, okay.
As retaliation. But like everyone's such a really bad shot because like all those guys are just standing next
like
to the truck,
all those people should have,
in
all
front
those
of it
people
with no cover.
should have died, and then only one person died.
On both sides.
Vanessa Williams, Vanessa character.
Williams' character Keisha.
But like
she runs out in the middle of the steps.
They're actively shooting it because at this point, because Pookie died in that blast, I guess.
Yeah, the bomb doesn't go off.
The bomb doesn't go off,
He's
but Pookie
dead.
dies.
Yeah, he's dead. I don't know if he was dead before the bomb was placed on him or if he died in the fire or something, or what, but
so,
he's dead.
I mean, Pookie dies, so then Ice-T now is the informant. So he becomes like buddy with Nino to be a part of his gang so they can still get Nino to arrest him.
Yeah, he and Judd Nelson somehow get in touch with G-Money through the Italian mob to work out some sort of a side deal or something. And I really didn't fully understand what the hell was going on, but like basically like Ice-T was going to be like the supplier of the drugs, it sounded like. And like he was going to buy, and then so now he's like hanging out with the gang.
Yeah, now all of a sudden
he's
like
this...
becoming BFF with Nino Brown. So he's at Ice-T.
Everything happened so fast, it's tough to
at
really
the wedding.
know.
Yeah, everything, because I was like, all of this is happening so fast, but I'm like, this is probably a span of like, what, 5 years or a couple years?
Yeah, I mean, they say 1989, they don't give a date after that, so probably all 89. I don't know.
All of that cannot happen in 1 year, or like all this, I don't know.
There's so much that goes on here.
But then, yeah, they're shooting at Ice-T, his character, and there's like 5 guys, and none of them are actually hitting him. And then Ice-T is like carrying this little girl, and I was like, oh my god, is he using that little girl as a shield?
No, Nino did.
Nino did.
Yeah, Nino definitely used the kid as a shield.
I was like, oh my god.
And then drops her, and then that's when, Ice-T comes and rescues her, because there was a dead dude.
Yeah.
I think it might have been the Reverend. Did the Reverend get it? The Reverend was played by Nick Ashford, by the way. Reverend Oates. Of Ashford and Simpson fame. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of musical people in this movie.
Yeah, you got Keith Sweat, who was the singer at the wedding.
Keith Sweat was the singer.
And I was like, oh, this is like to have him as the entertainment for that wedding. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know
like,
if he was playing himself
Keith
or not.
Sweat as Keith Sweat?
I don't fully know, honestly. But they have like Fab Five Freddy, they have Flavor Flav in there, they have Keith Sweat. They have Ika Mouse, which I'm not really familiar with, but he's like a reggae artist, or was. He's passed. He was the guy who was in the Carter Apartments that was dragged out naked.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that guy, that's Ika Mouse. Teddy Riley makes a brief appearance. Levert is in there. Obviously, Ice-T. Christopher Williams, who played Kareem, is also a musical artist. He did I'm Dreaming.
Yeah.
Promises, Promises, and stuff like that. So, a lot of musical people in this. Boy, yeah, the plot is just something else. Here's what I'll say, though. I mean, the social commentary is there when it needs to be, and it doesn't really beat you over the head either. Like, obviously, at the beginning, you have, like, the radio report that talks about some of this stuff. You have the old man character, Bill Cobbs, who sort of acts as, the voice of reason to a degree as well. I think, honestly, just seeing that scene of Ice-T looking at the other side of the fence through a teacher who's doing, like, the Just Say No program with the group of kids in the park, I think that's a nice little subtle commentary as well.
Mm-hmm.
The previous scene with the Reverend, when he is, I don't know where they are, it looks like a club or something that's, just some random sort of empty business building. And there's like a group of kids who are there to basically buy drugs, and also the Reverend. And then the old man, Bill Cobbs, comes in and reprimands him. It's like, what are you doing as this figure in our community, consorting with this devil, and why are you, Nino, doing this to your people? Why are you killing your own people? I mean, there's enough of those types of scenes in there that, I think the overall messaging is good and strong, and I wish the rest of the movie was as strong as that to kind of elevate it all. And I think that's where Boys in the Hood, I think, shines. I think that's where Juice also shines. To have two relatively close movies in the timeline as a comparison point. I don't think it glorifies the gangster mentality, though. And I think that's probably pretty important to also mention, because a lot of movies do.
Like glamorizing. There is a part where Nino is in a room and they're watching Scarface. Like, you know how people are obsessed with Scarface, and I feel that's like glamorizing the drug kingpin.
Yeah, there's a lot of idolization of Scarface and of gangster culture to begin with, and Nino obviously falls into that trap. G-Money falls in that trap. All these other people do, but I don't think the movie does. I don't think the movie glamorizes it in any sort of way.
Yeah, they're not glamorizing this at all. Like, it's not cool, I guess, to be a drug kingpin.
Yeah, it shows how destructive it can be. It shows how there's no way, you can really, truly trust anybody in your life. But I think the one thing that it does say, as part of its social commentary, is near the end, when the court stuff happens, it basically says the court system is not fully reliable to actually take on this stuff. The police are not fully reliable to take on this stuff. You have that scene with the old man in the police station where he's talking to the police officer, and the police officer is just walking away as he's trying to tell him about all this stuff that is ravaging his community.
Yeah.
And he's getting pissed off about it. But that's real life, and I think that's good, subtle commentary of... so in that way, it almost... That's the only way you could possibly say it glamorizes it, by saying, like, yeah, it's actually pretty easy for a lot of these people to get away with it because the system is kind of broken.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that... And I also think, just the fact that Wesley Snipes is basically just a pure villain this whole time. Obviously, some people will idolize that type of thing, but I don't think the movie does, which is a very important distinction.
At the end, you have that courtroom scene, or even the part where Scotty Appleton actually arrests Nino, and that whole
the big
chase
fight and
the fight where he confronts him about, you're the reason my mother died. But then they go straight into like that courtroom where the judge gives him a year. Nino.
Right. Well, not technically a year, but like he could be out in
a year
probation in a year.
Yeah. And then, you see Nino confronting Scotty saying, I'm going to see you again.
Right.
kind of like threatening him. Like, once I'm out, I'm coming after you.
Right.
But, I mean, spoiler alert, the old man comes out of nowhere and shoots Nino in the chest. But then that's like the end of the movie, because then Nino just slumps over, and then you see all these people's reactions like in slow motion. Everyone's like
he falls off the railing and
down
a few floors.
Yeah, these steps.
So it's like,
and then you see all these
sprawled out on the
people
floor.
reacting in slow motion.
Yeah,
and then that's the end.
That's where the message of like there are Nino Browns all over the country comes up. Let's go over some of this other casting credit stuff that we haven't talked about, if you don't mind. Mario Van Peebles is the director. Did not write this, but he was the Spirit nominee for Best Feature, Best Director, Best Writer for How to Get the Man's Foot Out of Your Ass a couple years back. I think about a decade ago. He has an Image Award win as an actor for Heartbreak Ridge. He was also in the 1991 movie A Triumph of the Heart, the Ricky Bell story, playing Ricky Bell. As a director, he's done Posse, Panther, Love Kills, also Badass, who is basically the story of his father and some of his movies. He's also directed episodes of 21 Jump Street, the original, Gabriel's Fire, Law and Order, Empire, Wu-Tang, and American Saga. Thomas Lee Wright is one of the co-writers. He is an Oscar nominee for Best Short Documentary, 2017's Edith and Eddie, which is about one of the oldest interracial couples, I guess, in the country at that time. I don't know exactly the full story, but it won a nomination. Barry Michael Cooper is the writer of Sugar Hill, Above the Rim, She's Gotta Have It TV series episodes, and he also wrote the article for Spin Magazine that inspired him to write this movie. I think you're going to talk about that more in a bit. Wesley Snipes as Nino, Spirit nomination for The Water Dance, an Image Award win for America's Dream. He's also nominated for The Player from 2015, and also Dolomite Is My Name, which is sort of like the start of his comeback in a sense, I guess. He's also an MTV Award nominee for Best On-Screen Duo and Best Kiss for White Men Can't Jump.
Okay.
Both with Woody Harrelson. I didn't remember that they kissed in that movie.
Did they?
Evidently they did. In some form or fashion.
Barely remember that movie besides them playing basketball.
Yeah, I saw it when it first came out on video. I remember liking it. I remember also being kind of confused because it was Woody Harrelson in a movie that wasn't fully funny.
Yeah.
But he also has a Best Villain nomination and Best for Demolition Man and Best Fight nominee for Blade.
Okay.
I knew him from Major League for this, William Ace Hayes. Like, that's pretty much how I knew him. And we'll see him again in Jungle Fever, 1991 movie. We also have Ice-T that we talked about. Again, one of the many musical people in this movie. He's in other movies like 3,000 Miles to Graceland, Leprechaun 5, In the Hood, Johnny Mnemonic and Tink Girl, Breakin' and Breakin' 2. He's in both of those. Bet you didn't know that. And then also
it's like one of the performers, probably. He's
one of the performers in one of them, and I don't remember what he was in the other one. He might have just been like in the background or something. 1991 movie Ricochet, he will also appear in. He's a Grammy Award winner for Black on the Block, which was a rap group, like a mega group thing. And he's also nominated for We're All in the Same Gang, which also deals with a lot of these, anti-drug messaging thing. And then also he was nominated for Best Rap Solo Song at the Grammys for New Jack Hustler Nino's Theme. But he lost to LL Cool J with Mama Said Knock You Out.
Oh, okay.
Which kind of makes sense. I think he's probably also well known for Law and Order SVU, playing a cop there as well. he was an Image Award winner for both that and also his work on New York Undercover. And I think he's also well known for the controversy with his group Body Count and the song Cop Killer. And then he became a cop on movies and TV. Chris Rock we talked about a little bit, right? I think we covered that. If you don't know who Chris Rock is, then sorry. Michael Michelle as Selena. We didn't really talk about her character all that much, but she does play a decent role in this. She has an Image nomination for Homicide: Life on the Streets. She was also Cleo Finch in ER, which is something that I don't know because that was after my time of watching it. She was also in New York Undercover, and also a syndicated show called Dangerous Curves. She's also someone who had filed a sexual harassment lawsuit against Eddie Murphy back in the day after being cast in Harlem Nights and then fired when she declined his advances. So, if you don't see her in Harlem Nights, that's why. And then the rest of this stuff we pretty much covered. We'll talk about Vanessa Williams as Keisha. Not the one that most people probably know. So not the singer slash actress slash beauty contest award winner. This is a different Vanessa Williams. This is her feature debut. She was also in Melrose Place.
Yes, in the first
She's
season.
Also in Candyman.
Yes.
Where she got a Fangoria nomination.
And she's in the new Candyman.
And she's in the new Candyman. Murder One, she's in the Soul Food TV show, whereas the other Vanessa Williams is in the Soul Food movie. She also has Image Award wins and nominations for Days of Our Lives, where she did 94 episodes. Also Soul Food, I think she got an Image win for that. I could be wrong. And also a Daytime Emmy nomination for Our America. So that's about it. We didn't really talk about Uniqua or anybody else.
No, we didn't. I mean, Uniqua was...
She was like...
G-Money's girlfriend, sort of. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. But, she sort of seduces Nino Brown, and he starts a relationship with her. But that's pretty much it.
That leads to the weirdest arc, in my opinion, is when G-Money starts using crack. Like, that happens pretty much after the whole thing with Uniqua.
Yeah.
And I felt really unmotivated. He's like, oh man, I'm so depressed about this girl or the
he
relationship
was sort of
with Nino.
About her, like, the entire time.
He was jealous that he couldn't have what he wanted. And then at the end, he's basically like, I don't like that you said that the world is mine, everything is mine. I thought we were in this together type of a thing.
Yeah, and then...
So he saw that as a betrayal, not so much because of the girl, but just because of the circumstances. But yeah, Uniqua was played by Tracy Camilla Jones, who's been in She's Got a Habit, and also like the Wild Thing video, the Tone Loc song. Last person I want to mention really quickly is Thalamus Rasulala, who played the police commissioner who gave Mario Van Peebles and Russell Long the assignment of this, right? He passed away in October 1991. This is his last movie. But he is also, he was well ingrained into the African-American cinema and TV culture in such movies as Blackula, Cool Breeze, Willie Dynamite, Bucktown. He was in Roots, What's Happening, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm sure he was family friends with the Van Peebles because of being in that world. And so this was his last movie. In terms of awards for the movie itself... we talked about the Image Awards quite a bit going through the cast. The movie got a nomination for the Outstanding Motion Picture, but it lost to Boys in the Hood. And then in 1993, the next year, which is weird, Wesley Snipes was nominated for the Best Actor. So in 1992's award show, it was nominated for Best Picture, and then in 1993, Wesley Snipes was nominated for Best Actor for this role. MTV Movie Awards also had a couple mentions in here. Nomination for Best Breakthrough Performance for Ice-T, but that went to Eddie Furlong for T2. Also Best Movie Villain for Wesley Snipes, but he lost. Do you remember who got that award?
I mean, is it Arnold Schwarzenegger or...
No. We talked about this in our very first episode. Rebecca De Mornay.
Okay.
Won for Hand That Rocks the Cradle, a 1992 movie. And then also Best Movie Song, I Wanna Sex You Up.
Okay.
Which I don't know why that's eligible. I don't think that wasn't created for this movie. It was just featured briefly in it.
I mean, that broke out like Color Me Bad. Yeah, I mean, that really put Color Me Bad up on the map. That escalated their fame, I guess. But I mean, I think I said this before, how I want to do like a whole Color Me Bad thing, because like they that was, I think, that the album that came out, their first album came out that same year that had that song on it. So it was, I mean, I was going to talk about it later, but I guess I'll talk about it now. It was just the impact of this soundtrack. How it became like so huge right when it was released, and it was released in March, like March 9th.
Yeah, the movie released in March 8th to general audiences across the country.
And then, you know, the album was released right then, and it became like platinum like immediately because of all this. I mean, the soundtrack is really good, and it's just like the introduction. You got like, you know, the New Jack Swing era, and it's like you're mixing like hip hop to New Jack Swing, and even though like New Jack Swing, this is like 1991 is like the peak of it, and then it kind of goes down after 91. I think it like ends in 93 or something. But yeah, the music I mean, this album did really well, and then I think because of that, Color Me Bad, their first album was released the same year, so then their album did really well. And then I thought it was funny because well, we didn't even say, like, the gang is called the Cash Money Brothers, like CMB gang.
They don't really make much mention of it, really.
Yeah, not really. But then I Color Me Bad is CMB, and then the title of their first album is CMB, and I thought that was interesting.
Anyway, Brian Williams won that MTV Award. And then also, lastly, it was also, apparently, you know how we've had, like, you know, when we talk about Doc Hollywood, like, the best performance by a pet montage in the MTV Awards, where we don't know who won, if anybody, or, you know, it's like something that they use like a commercial bumper. Evidently, there was a best performance by rock stars, fake nominees and quotes montage thing that this movie is also featured in as part of that, too. So maybe it's Ice-T or something again. I don't know. So we go on to true crime and pop culture. Yeah,
so this movie was, since we're talking about how this movie was released in January 17th, at Sundance, I am not going to talk about movies or music. I already did about the soundtrack, but Terror Within was released January 18th, so everything TV and music wise is going to be the same. So I just delved into, I know at the end of the movie, not the beginning, it says that this movie is fictional, but in reality, I guess, the writer, Barry Michael Cooper, he took the storyline and it was loosely based off of a Harlem drug kingpin by the name of Nicky Barnes, and then a Detroit gang known as the Chamber Brothers. And then Nicky Barnes, he was like a kingpin from the late 70s, early 80s, and he formed this gang called the Council. And then also that, you know, the apartment building they use called the Carter in the movie, it was really known as the Broadmoor. So it's similar.
In Detroit, yeah.
Yeah, in Detroit. So this is like similar where Nicky Barnes, he led this gang called the Council, where it was like a drug trafficking ring, and he was in partnership with the Italian-American Mafia, and he was arrested in 1977. He had life imprisonment, but he eventually became a federal informant that led to the collapse of the council. So it's kind of like using like the Pookie thing, sorta. And then Barnes lived under the U.S. Marshal Service Witness Protection Program until his death in 2012. But there was a book that was released about Nicky Barnes that came out in 2007 called Mr. Untouchable. And then I guess they did a documentary about him with the same name, Mr. Untouchable. I haven't seen that documentary.
No.
But there are other movies that based their characters on Nicky Barnes, and one of them was in the movie Carlito's Way, Rise to Power, where Sean Diddy Combs played a similar character.
Okay.
Also, in the movie American Gangster, I didn't see this. The one with Denzel, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the Cuba Gooding Jr. character was based off of him as well. But it doesn't say, Wesley Snipes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe because...
This is like a loose...
Maybe it is, yeah, more loose.
And yeah.
Or maybe a little bit more direct.
Yeah, those are... I haven't seen either of those movies, so I can't really compare. And then the Chambers brothers, they were a crime organization that was heavily involved in the distribution of crack in Detroit during the 80s. And they were 3 brothers. They also had 3 sisters that helped them out. And one of them was like a set of twins and one of them became like a top-notch military drill sergeant later on. And then they eventually moved to Memphis, Tennessee, while the brothers became notorious when the Detroit Police Department confiscated videotapes of the brothers counting their laundry baskets full of money and flaunting their excessive wealth. And that caused them to be arrested in the 80s. So yeah, New Jack City, both those stories kind of combine in this movie. And then I also read, like, maybe a weekish so ago, so like in November of 2021, that Barry Michael Cooper is working on like a prequel to this movie. And he wants to call it Am I My Brother's Keeper? And it delves into Nino's childhood. So explores where he grew up and why he overcame what he became, and like the larger issue of what he said in the courtroom, stuff like that. Okay. And then like maybe that's coming out soon. I don't. And then there was like a tweet that Barry Michael Cooper tweeted saying in November, so like a week ago, as of us recording us. Sure. He said, "The Diary of Nino Brown, the monster Reagan created. It's going to be a prequel, sequel, work in progress soon, God willing." That's what he said.
Interesting.
So maybe sometime soon.
Yeah.
And then there was also like I sort of read, like I skimmed through it, but it was like an interview that Cooper did where it was like an article that he did in the 80s about, because he grew up in Harlem. So he wrote like a feature, I guess, for the Village Voice in the 80s, and it's called Kids Killing Kids, New Jack City Eats Its Young. And that's also like serves as the foundation for this movie. Sure. And it's online, and I'll give it to you so we can put it on the website. And I kind of skimmed it because it was kind of long, but I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, then I guess we move on to rankings and ratings then.
Yep.
On your 1 to 5 star scale, where would you put New Jack City?
I mean, I was like going back and forth, but I think I'm gonna give this a 3.
Yeah, on my I'm sort of in the same boat as you. On my 0 to 4 star scale, I think I'm probably gonna say it's a 3 star as well. And honestly, part of that is just historical significance, and the fact that it opened the door for a lot of future movies and projects and things like that. So, it gets a little bit of a bump from that. Every movie is worth watching once. Would you watch it again?
Yeah, watch this again.
Yeah, I would watch it again too. I mean, it doesn't make sense most of the time, but it's still...
Yeah. I mean, that's why I was saying, like, it's kind of like Face Off, where it's just like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I like it type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a mindless action movie, because there's not tons and tons of action in there, and it definitely has a mind behind it. But it's still a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
You know, I think, honestly, just Wesley Snipes' performance carries a lot of it. He is so charismatically evil in this movie that he's fascinating to watch. And then you have, like, Judd Nelson on the other end of the spectrum.
Right.
Sorry, Judd, but it's true. So yeah, it's worth watching. If you out there want to watch New Jack City, as of this recording in December 2021, it's available on digital rental, VHS, or DVD. As always, check your local listings. You can listen to us on all of your major podcasting platforms. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends. You can email us at 1991movierewind@gmail.com. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. Just search 1991 Movie Rewind, or go to 1991movierewind.com for the full list of movies, along with show notes and more. Next week, we're continuing the New Year theme, and also kind of the crime theme with Murder in New Hampshire, the Pamela Smart story, so we can compare how a white woman's trial goes against Nino Brown's trial, perhaps. We'll talk about that next week. That's available on Tubi, IMDb TV, Roku channel, digital rental, VHS, DVD. We will see you then.